Hey, cheers everyone. Thank you for joining me. Let's go over the news together. Let's go ahead and cover some of the articles from MMORPG.com. And it says here, New World developers think players post density test points to August 25th preview. And if you didn't know already, over the weekend, the people over at Amazon Games decided to do kind of a stress test for the New World. Even though the game has been delayed and it's still about, I believe, 6 or 7 months away from now, it's still, I guess, never too late to really test out some of the potential problems that they may run into, even if they actually don't have a finished game. But if you look at the comment section below, it does seem to have a bit of a mixed bag. Some people hate it, some people loved it, and the stress test itself, many players actually had a hard time logging in, but then again, that's what a stress test is, right? Or in this case, a density test. Did I take part in it? I didn't. There were still a few other things on my plate that I had and that prevented me from having time to actually take part in this. But this is a sentiment that I actually expressed during our podcast with my other co-hosts. And to be honest, I'm not exactly excited about this game anymore. I still want to play it, don't get me wrong. I'm still looking forward to it, but it's just not as much anymore, unfortunately. Whereas I had other people PM me saying like they are really looking forward to this game. They actually did take part in the density test and they loved the combat, they loved the look and feel and everything, and good for them. Like, by no means am I saying this is going to be a bad game or has the potential to be a bad game. I really like giving companies the benefit of a doubt. But in terms of what I'm looking for in a game, particularly MMORPGs or other online games, I'm just looking for something new, something that I haven't done before. And a lot of the things that the people are saying about this game, about the combat, the PvP, the RVR, I feel like I could do these things in other games, and other games probably do it better than they have, or they are, as it currently stands. Maybe the New World will actually do things better than some of the games that I'm thinking about. When you're thinking about RVR or World versus World, I definitely think of games like Guild Wars 2, for example. In terms of non-tab targeting combat, I definitely think of Black Desert Online. So again, it's still too early to judge, in my opinion. Obviously, I want to be blown away by this game. I absolutely want to root for this game, but as it stands, yeah, I'm just really not that excited as I once was. But let me know in the comment section below what you think or feel about the game. And really quick, if you are an Atlas fan, Atlas Q&A talks optimizations, new ships, and more. But all in all, I mean, if you really want to get the nitty-gritty details about the actual Q&A, they have a dev blog post over at playatlas.com that you could actually take a look at. I actually don't know too much about this game, unfortunately. I've never played it, other than sort of the controversy that they had when they first released this game. People are saying that it's just a copy and paste from Arc Evolved, and there are some truths, I believe, some proof that actually showed that the developers just copied and pasted some of the resources from Arc Survival. And but anyways, I really hope this game is doing well, but I do plan on playing it, but we'll see. And in their next article, Star Citizen Community Reddit poll asks what features will be pushed from 3.11 to 3.12. And if you didn't know the controversy, this controversy is actually big enough so that even Yang did a dedicated video on this, but it's basically because of the lack of information, the lack of updates that CIG has been or hasn't been providing for its users. And it goes on to read that this poll follows the community's frustration regarding why news for Squadron 42 is delayed, with Cloud Imperium Games effectively announcing a roadmap for a roadmap to continue the community on progress for the single-player portion of a wider game, or the wider game, excuse me. So the first bullet point here is give an explanation of the goals to our new roadmap and what to expect from it, show a rough mock-up of the proposed new roadmap, share a work-in-progress version of the roadmap for at least one of our core teams, and finally transition this new roadmap. And so I tend to shy away from articles posting about things like an announcement of an announcement. You know, we get a lot of those, and I typically skip those unless it's like a fairly bigger game, but things like this is probably saying a lot without saying a whole lot, unfortunately. I really hope that CIG actually, you know, gets their act together and really provide its community with some really just solid details that people could really chew on for the long run, considering what, it's over $120 million in crowdfunding now, maybe even more, maybe 150, I don't know. I know it's over 100 million. And if you must know, I am actually a backer of this game. I won't say how much. It's pretty substantial, I think, but not too crazy like some of these other people who've been forking over thousands of dollars. But this is one of those games that, as I was talking about earlier, I'm looking forward to because it's so different. We really haven't had an MMORPG or online game on a massive scale such as this that is on a sci-fi level with all these ships and stuff like that. So despite all its criticisms, and I agree with its criticisms, don't get me wrong, I'm still very looking forward to this game. Next, we'll go ahead and cover some of the articles from massivelyop.com. And the first one here, closed alpha testing results, sees survival sandbox Craftopia delay its early access launch. And if you haven't heard of this game is supposed to be the MMORPG that does virtually everything imaginable. As it explains here in this first paragraph, for those who don't remember the last time we cast eyes on this one, it styles itself as an open world survival crafting game with farming, crafting obviously, dungeon delving, monster hunting, and factory creation and management, all done up in a cutesy visual style. So as far as I could tell from what I've gathered, that feels to me an MMO that combines the elements of, say, Phantasy Star Online 2 for the visuals, World of Warcraft just for its MMORPG genre, you know, that everybody thinks of. There also seems to be elements of Black Desert Online and also Conan Exiles just to mix it in there for the sort of factory creation and house building and whatnot. And sprinkle in a little bit of Monster Hunter 2, apparently. And you get this megalithic project or something huge as Craftopia. But unfortunately, it also says, as a result of the game's closed alpha, the devs at Pocket Pair have concluded that the early access is going to have to be pushed back in order to address a number of major issues, specifically multiplayer stability, server sync issues, loss of building data when moving islands, and corrupted or even lost saved data, which is huge. I mean, yeah, you definitely have to get those fundamentals down first, but if this game pans out to be the giant MMORPG that it's supposed to be, I mean, it could be a pretty big deal. Is it going to be as polished and beautiful looking as, say, Star Citizen or Black Desert Online? Probably not, but this is definitely one of those instances where you play the game for its features, game mechanics, and stuff like that, rather than the actual polish, I guess you could say. And lastly, it says down here, if all goes according to plan, early access will begin on Friday, September 4th. So fingers crossed, this game actually gets patched together nicely for everybody to enjoy without having to, again, lose your save data for one. And in their next article, Black Desert addresses caster-heavy Conquest Wars, new regions, and gear progress walls. And in one of the paragraphs here, it's basically talking about how ranged classes seem to be the default meta for PvP, especially during Conquest Wars, and they're trying to change it up a little bit so that's not the case, especially when it comes to the Black Spirit Rage. So hopefully all the classes that use close ranged weapons have a much more impact during Node Wars. And in their next paragraph, it talks about how after they introduced the succession skills, that the current meta is to maximize AP and ignore DP, and that this results in combat ending way too quickly. And it continues on saying that several options are being considered, including putting a different HP reduction variable in skill damage to make HP decrease slower or changing, and damage reduction formula to cap the amount of incoming damage based on DP. I actually prefer the last one there. Reduction formula to cap the amount of incoming damage based on DP. So then that way there's no different standards for PvP and PvE, although that does exist in the game. But just to keep things simple and to actually make DP count, yeah, I prefer the last part of that sentence there, or solution rather. And they were asked about new regions in the game, and it goes on to read that the answer confirmed that one or more regions with specific ways to enjoy PvE or PvP are in the works, as the devs feel the open world of Black Desert is where the game truly shines. And I completely agree with that. The world is all connected. You don't have any separate zones that you see, for example, in Guild Wars 2 or Blade and Soul, where they're all separated and you get load times, and there seems to be a disconnect with the world. Everything seems to be very boxed in instead of having, an open world feel like Black Desert Online. And so I definitely do agree with that sentiment. And it continues on to say that details on these new regions should come up either during the winter season or sometime next year. And lastly, for massivelyop.com, Final Fantasy XI, the Voracious Resurgence gets its own teaser site. And this is pretty interesting to me, considering I thought Final Fantasy XI was supposed to go under maintenance mode, as the article suggests, but apparently that's not the case. There seems to be a new life breathed into the game by the developers. But the article does continue on to say that the game has been pumping out updates reliably ever since its supposed maintenance mode kicked off, of course, but now it's getting new story content. As a demonstration of the scope, a new story has a subtitle and even full special site devoted to the new story players will be exploring, starting with the game's August version update. It's called Final Fantasy XI The Voracious Resurgence. And good on Square Enix for continuingly to support this game, even though they do have a more profitable and a bigger game, Final Fantasy XIV obviously. But the fact that they didn't abandon its Final Fantasy XI player base, to me, I think that's really cool, because more often than not, we see companies that will ditch a previous project for a more better, more updated one. And the one that comes to mind is Star Wars Galaxies. That game's, I think, truthfully say, part of the reason why it went offline was because of the release of Star Wars The Old Republic. And I'm not a huge business type of person. I don't see why not they couldn't have both servers up, because Star Wars Galaxies definitely has a huge cult following. Even a rogue server is up and flourishing right now. So but again, that's just one example. Sorry, I kind of lied to you guys. There's still one more article from MMORPG that I completely forgot about. And the title here says, you'll need a Garden of the Gods to access ArcheAge Unchained's Ipnysh Sanctuary, I believe that's how you say it, on August 13th. And as you could already tell if you scroll down to the comment section, a lot of them are pretty salty about it, but understandably so, unfortunately. And all in all, it just says that if you're attempting to join the dungeon that requires that update, you'll just get an error message. So again, just wanted to let you know that's the case, unfortunately. I actually did purchase Unchained, and I was gonna jump right into it. I got the names that I wanted, and I was really excited about it, but for whatever reason, I just couldn't stick with it. It just didn't hold my attention long enough. Next, we got one article from MMOculture.com. TERA Battle Arena Team PvP mode announced BDO Action MMORPG. I'm not exactly sure what that means. What's BDO Action? Am I getting old? Is that like a boomer thing? Am I a boomer now? But anyways, it does go on to read that NMass Entertainment recently announced TERA Battle Arena, an all-new team-based battle mode coming 2020 on PC. In TERA Battle Arena, players will control heroes drawn from the TERA universe, with each hero having their own unique skill sets and abilities. So as you can see from their thumbnail, their YouTube thumbnail, it's pretty obvious the type of demographic that they're trying to attract. It'd be very interesting to see a bunch of I guess Elens or Ellens. I think it's Elens. No, it's Ellens, right? I'm pretty sure it's Ellens. A group of Ellens battling it out with a team of like Amani or Barakas. I think that would be kind of funny but weird at the same time. Unless it's something where it's very similar to Apex Legends or even Valorant, where you could only pick one hero at a time for each team, but who knows. Next, we will head on over to GameSpew.com for one article. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice update will add new features, and it's been like, if 2020 was known for anything in terms of a genre, it's definitely samurai games, because we just had Sekiro, we had Neo 2, I think that came out last year if I'm not mistaken, but then we also had Ghost of Tsushima that came out 2 or 3 weeks ago, and as far as I can tell, people are loving those games. And I don't know if we're going to go on a necessarily a historical samurai resurgence of some type, similar to what we're seeing with the cyberpunk subgenre. But either way, I mean, I hope we also get a lot of more awesome samurai games. But anyways, it goes on to read that 18 months after its launch, Sekiro Shadows Die Twice is set to receive an update that will inject new life into the game for many. So one new game mode is called Reflections of Strength, and this is a mode where it actually allows you to refight the bosses in the game. And there's also another mode called Gauntlets of Strength, and this is a mode where you only get one life. The game is already difficult enough, but you have to defeat this mode with only one life, and that's going to be a tough challenge. But if you actually get through it, you actually get 2 additional costumes for the wolf to wear. There's also a new remnant system. It allows players to record 30 seconds of what they do in game and then upload it alongside a message for others to see. Players will be able to rate the remnants they encounter, and if they do, the owner will receive HP recovery, allowing them to keep in the fight without having to use items. Next, we'll go ahead and cover some of the articles from GamesRadar.com. And the first one here, Warframe Heart of Deimos expansion adds new tutorial, open world, and corpse Gundams. And I don't know if this is like a meshing or a crossover between Warframe and Gundam, the Gundam franchise, but that sounds pretty cool. I don't know if they're actual Gundams in the game, but I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with this article, if at all. Again, I want to be able to provide the news and give you some feedback, but I've never played Warframe, so I could sit here and give you the details about what's going on, but I have no idea what they're talking about, and that to me kind of seems a little inauthentic, I guess you could say. I mean, do I really need to play the game to kind of give you the information of what's going on? Not necessarily, but to all you Warframe fans out there, definitely fill me in the comment section below. Again, they're adding a new tutorial, so this is definitely a way for me to jump in it so that it gives a little bit more of a context next time I do cover news and updates about this game. So I do apologize, but just to let you know that there is a new expansion coming out for all you Warframe fans out there. And Gundams too, apparently. I don't know what that's about, but that's cool. And in their next article, Grounded has already clocked up 1 million players. And if you don't remember this game, they had a very clever and funny trailer that they played. They had a voiceover in the background that said, "If you are wanting to play the most anticipated game of the year," and then it showed Cyberpunk 2077, which I thought was pretty funny. And there were other things about the trailer that was pretty funny. But yeah, this is the game being developed by Obsidian, and this is the same developer that made Fallout New Vegas, as well as the RPG that seems to be tackling. I can't talk. That seems to be going against Elder Scrolls. I do digress, so I do apologize, but if you don't know anything about this game, I do have the trailer playing above me or over me, depending on how I edit this. It's supposed to be a fun sort of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids survival RPG. And as you can see, you could build forts made out of like grass and leaves, and you have to fend off against spiders and ants and stuff like that. So again, I don't know, maybe it's another boomer moment for me, but Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was sort of a family comedy movie about a scientist that accidentally shrinks his kids. And I believe there's two. There's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids 1 and 2. But I grew up on the first one. I have very fond memories now that I think about it. But because of that movie, I actually want to play this game, and so I'll definitely check it out and maybe do a first impressions on this game soon enough. And next, we will head on over to Gematsu.com for a few articles. And really quick, Magic Legends reveals the Sanctifier class, and of course, I mean, it is what it sounds like, a healing class of sorts. Again, I'm not going to cover too much about this game. I, for one, was never really a Magic player or fan, although my brother is, and lots of people from the comic book store that I go to would play, in the card rooms and stuff like that, and they seem to have a lot of fun. But I feel like if I were a Magic the Gathering fan, it would probably place a lot more emphasis in terms of me wanting to play this game, because the two are connected in some way, apparently. I don't know to the extent of how they're connected, but I'm really hoping it's more than just an IP, sharing of the IP, just the name, and more with the actual lore and whatnot. But anyways, if you took a look of our last MMORPG podcast that I did with Kennethan and Sir Jaziel actually covered this, and he said that they are actually removing the MMO part of this game, unfortunately, which I admit kind of sucks, admittedly, as an MMORPG fan, but it's still an RPG at least, and an online RPG at that. So yeah, this is more going to be towards like sort of that Diablo route, where you have an isometric gameplay and all that other stuff. I mean it's Diablo. I mean, what more could I say? But there will be online elements to it where you can actually play with friends and stuff like that. But yeah, they're completely removing the MMO part of it. There's no longer going to be an instance where you are in a town with thousands of other players. At least that's my definition of an MMORPG, or an MMO in general. That definition seems to be changing whatnot these days, but that's my old school, I guess you could say, boomer definition of things. So for all you JRPG fans out there, I got you guys covered. And the first one here, JRPG Higurashi When They Cry May. announced for iOS and Android. And again, I have no idea. I don't know anything about this game other than it seems to look like or indicate it's some sort of visual novel RPG. I don't know. I don't even know if it's out in English, but hey, if you're one of those weeps that could actually read Japanese, more power to you. Next one, we also have another JRPG, Bleach Brave Souls, coming to the PC this summer. I, for one, never really got into Bleach. I did see the pilot and a few episodes after that, but I didn't really get into it, unfortunately. But by all means, it seems like a very interesting anime and manga. But nevertheless, it seems to be a pretty fun hack and slash RPG, but they kind of use that chibi style, as you could see from the trailer that I have playing. And I typically shy away from that kind of aesthetic, unfortunately. It just really isn't my cup of tea. But by all means, like I said, for all you JRPG fans out there, this is definitely something that might float your boat. So if you give it a try, let me know in the comment section below how you like it. Next, we will head on over to allchar.com, and the first one here, don't delete your favorite Destiny 2 armor pieces before transmog comes, and I do apologize, it is cut off on the right there. But it goes on to read that Destiny 2 players are still wondering whether they are free to delete armor pieces that they will be able to convert to ornaments later on, and Bungie is encouraging them not to do so. So after reading everything, you'd figure they'd give you a solid answer, but they really haven't. It says here in the end, a definitive answer is not around yet, but it's better to be safe than sorry. So keep that armor in the vault for now and don't dismantle it. Truth be told, in terms of online games or online RPGs, looter shooters aren't something that I really played. So Destiny 2 was a game that I wanted to play to kind of check that off my list. Another game that I wanted to play was The Division 2. But as far as I can tell, when I read the reviews, I wasn't really impressed. And then Anthem came around, and you guys know that I love mechs. And even though Anthem, you could argue, isn't really a mech game, in my definition, in my terms, I would consider it a mech game more or less. They're probably more so like power armor, very similar to what I guess even Master Chief wears in Halo. But I still consider it, let's call it mech light. You know, it's not necessarily mech warrior or armored core, but it definitely has features of something a mech would have, right? But again, Anthem was a huge disaster, but hey, if you play it and you enjoy it, don't let my opinion spoil that for you. By all means, like, definitely play what you enjoy, right? But yeah, in terms of checking off the box, in terms of the games that I want to play, that is looter shooter, I really haven't played any. And the only game, the two games that I look forward to the most that are looter shooters, or looter slasher in one case, is Godfall, and the other one is Outriders. And we'll see how that goes. I have my hopes up. I probably shouldn't, but I'm really looking forward to those games. And again, finally checking off that looter shooter box that I haven't played yet. Next, we got two articles from PCGamer.com. And the first one here, free-to-play RPG Cyberpunkdreams gets a debut trailer and beta registration. And just to let you know, I mean, Cyberpunk seems to be all the rage these days, but this particular game probably won't be your cup of tea. It's an actual text-based RPG, as it says here. So there's no controlling of people like in your traditional RPGs. There's no shooting. Well, there's shooting, but everything is typed. You have to type everything out. And this is definitely, I think, in my opinion, very akin to sort of the MUD games that you probably may or may not play during the 90s. And even then, I completely forgot what MUD stood for. Hang on. Here we go. A MUD is a multiplayer real-time virtual world, usually text-based. MUDs combine elements of role-playing games, hack and slash, player versus player, interactive fiction, and online chat. Now, this particular game doesn't indicate any online features or anything like that. I think this is strictly just going to be a single-player RPG, or text RPG rather. But it does go on to read that there are already 1.5 million words in the game, which comes out to about 200 hours in length, and has a humongous map as well. Probably a little longer if you are a slow reader such as myself. So there you have it. And lastly, from PCGamer.com, Anthem update reveals some of the changes coming to the redesign. And as far as I could tell, this article is referring to the original Anthem, Anthem 1.0, not 2.0. 2.0, we've been getting tidbits of information about some of the progress, especially the new pirate faction that you have to face off with, but it seems like they're actually making a few changes to the original one for the better, maybe in preparation or so. But anyways, it does go on to read that equipment and loot was what Anthem players wanted to hear about the most, according to BioWare, so here we are. Loot drops will be more frequent, and all items are apparently better and more competitive, and all loot rarities have value. And towards the bottom of the article, it says here's a full list of what BioWare is working on, at least in regards to loot, though it's all subject to change. And again, I'll have a link to this article down in the pinned comment section below if you want to take a look or a more closer look at things. But unfortunately, it also says there's no word on the changes or when it could be expected. But given the apparent scale of the redesign and the team having to work on from home, it's going to take some time to finish. And that concludes today's episode of what I'm rebranding again to MMO and RPG news and commentary. As you can tell, I'm changing it up a little bit, or maybe a lot, depending on how you view things. But yeah, basically, I've been doing the same thing for a few months now, and growth has been pretty slow, unfortunately, and they say that the definition of insanity is to continue doing the same thing expecting a different result. So I figured I'd just be a little bit more free about doing things rather than just giving you straight up just news, add a little bit more commentary, give you my opinion on things. And even then, I'm still pretty much a fence sitter when it comes to these things, very milquetoast as to my expectations of a lot of these games, unfortunately. But that's just who I am. I tend to not have a strong opinion one way or another, just because again, as I stated earlier, I like to give the benefit of a doubt to a lot of these companies, and plus I don't like controversy. But if I feel strongly about something, I'll definitely let you guys know. But for the most part, I'm pretty easygoing guy, as maybe some of my personal friends could attest to, hopefully. But anyways, let me know if you guys like the new change up. It's going to be a very longer video, but hopefully you see more of my personality reflected in these videos, and thus making it more relatable. And that's ultimately my hope for these videos that I make continuing here on out. So again, thank you so much for sticking around. The watch time does help with the algorithms, and if you feel as though as I earn your subscription, please consider hitting the subscribe button down below and hitting the bell notification icon right next to it. Anyways, guys, I will finally let you guys go. Hope you guys have a blessed night, and I will see you guys next time. Cheers again, everyone.